The numbers have flipped, and so too has the narrative. Just weeks away from the Iowa caucus, Bernie Sanders is now leading in New Hampshire by a large margin. Some polls show that he's actually leading in Iowa, and the other polls show that him and Hillary Clinton are neck and neck. Now, additionally, he performs much better against Republicans in hypothetical matchups, and he has more female supporters than Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire. And additionally, he was endorsed by Move On, the biggest progressive organization in the country, and Paul Kirk, former DNC chair. Now, finally, a media consulting agency found Bernie Sanders' political ads to be more effective than all other candidates in both parties. So to say that Bernie Sanders has had a good week is the understatement of the century. So finally, the mainstream media is starting to catch on to the fact that Hillary Clinton isn't so inevitable after all. In fact, CNN actually did a breaking news story on Bernie Sanders' increasing poll numbers. This is unfathomable to me, and I didn't expect that they would do this, unless he actually won Iowa or New Hampshire, but they're scared, so now they're starting to cover it. Now, as a result of this, Hillary Clinton is obviously starting to feel the burn, so what does she do? Well, she went on an absolute rampage against Bernie Sanders all week, and she launched multiple attacks, but unfortunately for her, she will not come out on top, and I'm going to tell you why that's the case. But first, I'm going to actually get to her attacks, and I'm going to briefly go over them. So, first and foremost, when it comes to income inequality, you know, the issue that Americans care most about, well, she implied that Bernie Sanders talks too much about it. She says, quote, "It's not the only thing I talk about. Senator Sanders has some very big ideas, but he hasn't yet told anybody how he would pay for them. I am very clear about what I would do and how I would pay for it." The problem is that she's outright lying, because Bernie Sanders has been very clear. He stated multiple times how he would pay for his policies. So, for example, when you look at the free college tuition plan, he would fund that with the Wall Street speculation tax. When you look at universal health care, he would fund that program by ending our current regressive healthcare system. Now, because universal healthcare is cheaper than our regressive system, we'd actually have a surplus. So not only could we fully fund universal healthcare, we would have more than enough to fund it. Now, furthermore, moving on to her next attack, she critiqued Bernie Sanders on guns multiple times, and she's trying to run to his left on this issue, but the problem for her is that she forgets that we remember how she ran to the right of Obama on this issue in 2008.
She's running around talking about how this is an insult to sportsmen. How she values the Second Amendment. She's talking like she's Annie Oakley.
Now, she released this ad in 2008. Now, we all know about this. The internet's available. We see what she did in 2008. It's very clear.
I remember in 2008, during the primaries, you were positioning yourself to the right of President Obama, or then Senator Obama, on this issue. You talked about respecting how guns are part of the culture, sending out a mailer, criticizing then Senator Obama for pushing tougher gun laws. Now you're coming at Bernie Sanders on this issue from the left. Did something change, or is it just about who you're running against?
Finally, in the most egregious attack yet, she went after Bernie Sanders' healthcare plan once again, and this time she sent her daughter to do the attack for her. Take a look.
We'll go back to an era before we had the Affordable Care Act that will strip millions and millions and millions of people of their health insurance.
So I don't have to tell you why it's incredibly deceptive to state that people would get less healthcare under a universal healthcare system, because that just flies in the face of reason, because it's literally called universal healthcare, implying that everyone has healthcare. But nonetheless, Hillary Clinton defended her daughter's attacks and states, "First off, I adore my daughter, and I know what she was saying, because if you look at Senator Sanders' proposals going back 9 times in the Congress, that's exactly what he's proposed: to take everything we currently know as Medicare, as healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid, the CHIP program, private insurance, now the Affordable Care Act, and roll it together." So now she's resorting to gross misrepresentations of Bernie Sanders' plans. Real classy.
Since when do Democrats attack one another on universal health care?
Now, the cherry on top of all of this is, when asked whether or not she's nervous about Bernie Sanders catching up to her, she states, "No, I'm not nervous at all. I'm working hard, and I intend to keep working as hard as I can until the last vote or caucus goer expresses an opinion. I'm excited about where we are."
Oh my God, stop fucking lying.
Okay, so first and foremost, you're a terrible liar, because if you weren't nervous, you wouldn't be launching all of these attacks. See, it's very bad for a campaign to launch attacks, so they don't do it unless they're in crunch mode. you're in crunch mode. Now, first and foremost, if you literally are telling the truth, which you're not, but if you were and you're not nervous, well, you should be now, because once you hear about the aftermath of these attacks, it's devastating for the Hillary Clinton campaign. So first, Bernie Sanders' response to Hillary Clinton's universal healthcare attack was detrimental to her campaign, and I think it's going to have lasting effects here. So, Bernie Sanders obviously has always been in favor of universal healthcare, and guess who else was once in favor of universal healthcare? Hillary Rodham Clinton. Now, this was, of course, prior to taking millions of dollars to give speeches on behalf of the health insurance industry, and also before they donated $854,462 to her campaigns. So it's very clear why she switched her position. This is a clear case of bribery. It's a clear case of legal corruption. Now, even though she wants to try to erase the fact that she once supported universal health care, well, the problem is that the evidence is out there. And Bernie Sanders tweeted out a picture that is insanely bad for the Clinton campaign. So here's what they tweeted out. So it's a picture with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders in 1993 that states, "To Bernie Sanders, with thanks for your commitment to real healthcare access for all Americans." So if it hasn't been obvious what she's trying to do, this makes it clear as day. And if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter, I want you to ask yourself, can you support a candidate that's being this deceitful? You need to rethink your support for her if this is the case. Now, that image was devastating for a campaign, but her attacks helped Bernie Sanders substantially in a different area. So, since Hillary Clinton's slew of attacks begun, Bernie Sanders raised $1.4 million. So every time you attack him, his supporters get motivated to donate to him. We get motivated to phone bank for him and try to convert more people. So honestly, Hillary Clinton, keep it up, because you're only helping Bernie Sanders and making him stronger while simultaneously making yourself weaker. Now, that's not just hyperbole. Candidates actually do get demonstrably weaker each time they launch attacks. This is political science. Don't take my word for it. So according to a political science study by Dr. Deborah Brooks and Michael Murov, they explain how negative attacks actually delegitimize the candidates who launch them. So they use their super PACs typically to launch attacks, hence the reason why super PACs have become so popular. So usually, this is the last resort for a campaign. So Hillary Clinton was way up here, Bernie Sanders was down here, right? So as she gets closer and closer and closer, and Bernie Sanders' numbers goes up, she has to do anything she can. Even though launching an attack will delegitimize her and bring her numbers down, well, oftentimes, when you launch these attacks, it brings both parties' numbers down, which that's the case. Even though you know you're going to take a hit, the goal is to bring down the numbers of your opponent. But the problem is that when she launches these attacks, her numbers go down and Bernie goes up. So it's not working out well for her. In fact, the opposite is happening. So this is why candidates always use their super PACs to launch attacks, because it's devastating to them, and it really is... It reflects badly on their own character. Now, Hillary Clinton knows this. Even if she doesn't know about that particular article, she sees the results, she sees the damage that it did, and how it actually bolstered Bernie Sanders' campaign to attack him. So what is she now doing? She's getting smart. So now she's using one of her many super PACs to attack Bernie Sanders. One of her super PACs stated that Sanders' unreleased tax plan would require tax increases on working families. Well, nice try, but it's too late. You've already launched a Republican attack. It's too late for you, okay? So now all you can do is try to run an actual civilized campaign and see if that helps you rebound, but we've got a couple weeks from Iowa, and I don't think it's going to do very much. And furthermore, to attack universal health care, a policy that 81% of Democratic voters, your constituents, are in support of, is not the smartest thing to do. What are you going to do next? Attack minimum wage? I mean, you are going full Republican here. I don't get how you think this is an electorally viable strategy. Now, here's one more unforeseen consequence of her attacks. You just fueled the Bernie or bust movement. Now, this movement seeks to either vote for Bernie or bust. It's either Bernie or no one. So if Hillary Clinton becomes the Democratic nominee, they're going to either boycott the election or write in Bernie Sanders. I honestly am starting to see why someone would want to boycott the election, because you're proving to be a terrible candidate. So why would we vote for you? If you're being this deceitful and think we're that naive in the campaign, well, how misleading are you going to be when you're actually in office? Now, I've seen so many people on Twitter and Facebook state that they were on the fence about boycotting the election if you got the Democratic nominee. And this kind of pushed them to that other side where they're probably going to vote for the Green Party, Jill Stein most likely. So good job, Hillary Clinton, because now you are not only pissing off Bernie Sanders' base, but you are actually disenfranchising Democratic voters. So you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself, and I'm sad that a prominent member of the party that I've always supported would resort to such conservative, deceitful Republican tactics such as this. It's absolutely shameful, and all you could do now is try to save face and be as civilized as possible, but I don't think you're going to do that, because you will do anything it takes to win, even if it means slandering Bernie Sanders' character and absolutely lying about his policies.